This story begins with a lady named Marni, who was in the police station for the last 2 years. Now, because of her good behavior, the police leave her. Her punishment was not fully forgiven, but now whatever punishment was left, she will have to spend her life in her house like a prisoner. A tracking device is also attached to her feet which will tell the police when she walks. That is, she could not walk more than 100 steps in her house if she tries to run away from the house. The police will find out with the help of this device. Now, a police inspector comes to Marni's house who keeps the keys of the device with him, and also says that we will be watching at all times. Marni actually killed her husband, because of which she was punished. Her blood marks were still present on the wall of her house. Marni's husband was also a police officer, who is the same inspector whose name is Shanks, who came to leave Marni at home. He was her companion. That's why Shanks was also very sorry for her friend's death. But Marni did not kill her husband on purpose. In fact, she killed him by mistake while saving herself. But Shanks did not believe in Marni at all. He says to her that, as you are saying, my friend could never do this. Now that Inspector Shanks goes, Marni starts cleaning her house. First of all, she collects her husband's clothes and puts them in the basement. But the basement was more than 100 feet. This device was of a special type. Neither would it ever close, nor could Marni remove it from her leg. If she did anything like that, the police will find out immediately. So she throws the bag from the door, because of which the bag was opened, and all the things spread in the basement. After that, she first removes the blood marks from the wall, where her husband died. She cleans her house. She takes a bath and wears her clothes. She wore her clothes after many days. She slept on her bed after a long time. One day she sits by the window and thinks that the old days can never come back. She will never be accepted by society, just because she killed her husband. She thinks that the friends who met her before came to her house. Now no one thinks she is good. Everyone started hating her. They are ignoring her. On the same night, strange things happen to Marni. Sometimes she has candles. If she gets burnt or extinguished by the wind, she feels the urge to walk from her own house. When she goes and sees, there was a man outside, who had been living in the basement of her house for the past year. He goes away from there in fear of Marni. In the next morning, in the daylight, nothing happens to Marni. She spends the whole day very well. Now the groceries of the house. So she ordered on the phone, and ordered the groceries. A boy named Joy comes to give Marni the groceries. He says, I will come to give you all the groceries from today. One night she lights the lighter to light the cigarette. Suddenly a scary face comes in front of her, who was not someone else's but her husband, seeing whom. She gets scared, fell down from the bed. She runs towards the door to go out, but suddenly she remembers that she can't go out of her house. If she did that, the police will arrest her. For 10 years now, her husband's soul was slowly moving towards her. She pulls his leg. Then Marni runs out of fear and fell down in the basement and fainted. After some time, Shank comes to her because she knew from the tracking device. When she comes to her senses and sees Shanks in front of her, then she doesn't tell her anything what happened to her and how she got here because she doesn't know what happened to her. Then she sees the blood mark on the wall which she had erased, but it had come back now. Marni can't sleep at night. She gets scared and spends the whole night like this, and makes herself understand that Marni don't be afraid. Next morning, paranormal and strange things begin in her house. Now she felt that someone else was living with her, in this house. She hears someone walking from the upper part of her house when she goes to make coffee in the kitchen. Then she sees the utensils on the shelf moving. Suddenly those utensils fall on her. Marni saves herself. But after this incident, she was convinced that her husband's soul is in this house which is bothering her. Marni bravely confronts her and says that I won't go anywhere from here. This is my house too. Few days pass like this now. Marni's husband's soul was bothering her even during the day. Shanks, who was sitting outside, kept an eye on Marni's house, but he didn't know anything about it, that what was going on in her house. Among all this, Marni had a good friend Joy who used to come to her house to give things. They become good friends. One day she tells him about her husband. She says that he was very good to me in front of the world, but he used to beat me in the intoxication of alcohol, and used to torture me. I complained to the police many times, but neither did anyone believe me, nor did the police get any evidence because he used to beat me in such a way that there were no marks on my body one night when he was scaring me with a knife. So I killed him with a knife to save myself, which caused his death. Joy says after hearing everything, but I do it because Joy started liking him now. She asks Joy to read many books to know about ghosts. After reading the books, she comes to know that first of all, that Soul's things will have to be removed from the house where he used to live. Then holy water, clean water will have to be sprinkled all over the house. And at the same time that Soul has to say on the phone that go away from here. Marni thinks she will do everything, but she threw her husband's things in the basement now in front of her. It was a challenge that she has to go to the basement within 3 minutes and bring her husband's things back, because after 3 minutes, the tracking device attached to her leg will start working. Now she does the same thing. She goes to the basement and quickly picks up all the things and brings them up. That's when her husband's soul pulls her feet and throws her away, but still, Marni brought the stuff upstairs. That's when the shank comes in after hearing the noise in her house, who always kept an eye on her outside the house. When he sees the wound marks and blood coming out of the nose on Marni's face, he thinks that she must not have killed her husband. The killer is someone else who is now trying to kill her. He asks Marni what the truth is. Tell me, I will help you, and I will not tell anyone. When Marni tells her the truth that her husband's soul is bothering her in this house and wants to kill her. Hearing this, the shank says, "You have gone mad, this can never happen." Marni says, "I knew no one would believe me." So now she thinks that whatever she has to do, she will have to do it alone. She picks up all her husband's stuff and throws it in the garbage. And when she starts throwing her wedding ring in the hole of the shank, that's when her husband's soul was trying to pull her hand, put it in the gutter and try to cut it. But Marni saves herself. Now the blood mark that she had erased once again comes to its place. She looks at it and thinks that there is still something left in this house of her husband. She was looking for it like crazy. She doesn't get anything, and in this madness, she hits her head on the ground again and again. That's when a tile of the floor was torn. She is very surprised to see this. Now she slowly tears off half the tiles, under which she finds a bag full of money. Looking at which she says, "Oh, so this was the stuff that my husband still has in this house." Looking at the money, she thinks, what should she do with this money now? After thinking a lot, she decides that she will give this money to the church. Now she calls her father and gives the money. And also says that she will do a ritual to her house and throw away everything that is here. But the father refuses to do this. Because he also realized that this is the kingdom of the powerful soul, which he cannot control. Anyway, after her departure, Marni completes all the rituals herself, and tells her husband's soul to go away from here. But it was not so easy to drive her away. She troubles Marni again, pulls her hair and takes her away, and hits her head against the wall. Then Marni asks her what she wants. That soul makes a U on the wall with her blood. Means she wanted Marni. Her husband's soul came to take revenge on her death. She also tries to run away from here. But her husband's soul does not let this happen. She had closed all the windows and doors of the house. She picks up all the furniture from the house and hits Marni. That soul also tried to kill her with nails. But her husband's soul does not kill her. The whole house was in chaos. Marni was also alone and scared in the house. That's why she calls Joy to spend time. After a while, she was also very excited. Now he wanted to come to Marni's house. And in a while, he comes to her. They spend the whole night together. When it was morning, Marni was very happy. Her husband's soul was now angry. He grabs Joy and hits her in the wall. That soul hits her so hard that her nose and mouth started bleeding. That soul also broke her hands and feet. Joy gets a terrible death. Everything was happening in front of Marni's eyes, but she couldn't do anything, because when she tries to save Joy, her husband's soul also throws her away. Now Joy's dead body was in front of her and her husband's soul too. Marnie's hands and feet start shaking. She gets very scared. Now, first of all, she goes to the bathroom and cleans herself somehow. That's when Shank comes to the door, because she saw Joy coming last night. Now he tells Marnie to open the door. She was very scared to see Shank and thinks what to do now. But first of all, she hides Joy's dead body, because she knew that Shanks would not believe her, that Joy would not believe her. Now her husband's soul has hit her. She hides Joy's dead body under the tiles. Then she cleans the phone from the shirt and puts it inside. Then Shank also came in. Marnie wanted to talk to her and send it as soon as possible, because the tiles she hid under the tiles in the upper room, Shank was standing under the same ceiling. The dead body could fall from the ceiling to her. That's when it happens. Now, when Joy's dead body falls on Shank, she thinks that Marnie also killed Joy. As soon as she killed her husband, he now arrests her for this. Marnie does not say anything to Shank in her defense, because she also wanted to leave this house. Now, when Shank was taking her, he sees that Marnie's husband's soul picks her up and hits her from a distance. Shank could understand. The same thing happens with him, that soul also throws him away. Shank, for the first time in front of her, saw Marnie's husband's soul, that too. When he tries to stop that soul, he is unable to stand in front of his power. He set the whole house on fire. The soul picks up Marnie and Shank and throws them in the basement. Shank was unconscious because of the injury in the house. Marnie also tries to bring him to his senses, but she can't. The fire had spread in the house. The basement door also closes. Now Marnie first takes out the key from Shank's pocket and opens her device. Then she runs towards the ventilation. She opened it and went out. Then she went back and saved Shank and brought him out. But when she was leaving, her husband's soul caught her from behind. She wanted to burn him in the fire and kill him. Then Marnie hits her with the wedding ring on her face and says, "It's over now. Everything is over. Leave me alone." Then her husband's soul left her behind. She disappeared forever, meaning the last thing was her ring. Shank and Marnie came out of the house. Her house burns to ashes. Now Shank also, because he knew everything, tells Marnie to run away from here. "Go away. I will handle everything." Marnie also does the same. She left from there. She left this city. Now she had to live with a new name and identity, because the next day the newspaper also writes the same news, that Marnie's house caught fire. Now there was no police behind Marnie and no case. She becomes free and starts her new life. And with this, the story of this film ends here.